Today, we're going to talk about an author who basically held up a mirror to America and showed it a side of itself that, well, it didn't always want to see. We're talking about the one and only John Steinbeck. So let's just start with a question. Think about it. What if one of the greatest writers in American history decided not to write about kings or heroes or, I don't know, celebrities? What if they wrote about the people we usually walk right past? Farm workers, families struggling to get by, people who were just trying to make it to the next day. Well, that writer was John Steinbeck. You definitely know his work, stuff like Of Mice and Men and The Grapes of Wrath. And today, we're going to dig into where that incredibly powerful, that really unique voice of his actually came from. Okay, so to really get his books, you've got to get the man behind them first. And believe me, he was a totally different kind of author. And here's the thing you absolutely have to understand about him. His life and his stories, they're completely inseparable. You can't have one without the other. He wrote about the people nobody was looking at because he was one of them. And by doing that, he basically forced the entire country to look at a reality it had been trying really hard to ignore. So, where did he get this unique point of view? I'll tell you this much. It wasn't from a fancy classroom. Nope, his voice was forged by real hard life. All right, so John Steinbeck was born back in 1902 in Salinas, California. And you really, truly can't separate the man from the place. I mean, the Salinas Valley wasn't just where he grew up. It was basically a character in his novels. He was always out there soaking up the stories of the people who worked the land. He did spend some time at Stanford, but he never finished. Turns out his real education was just getting started. And wow, what an education it was. To keep himself afloat while he was trying to write, he got his hands dirty. He worked right alongside farm laborers, ranch hands, factory workers, you name it. For him, this wasn't just about paying the rent. This was his research. This was everything. And that right there is what gave his writing such a raw, authentic feel. See, he wasn't some outsider looking in on the struggles of the working class. He was in it. He lived it. And that kind of firsthand knowledge, man, you just can't fake that. No way. And all of that experience, all that time spent living that life, it perfectly prepared him for a massive national crisis. And it's what made him, without a doubt, the voice of the Great Depression. But, it wasn't an overnight success story. Not at all. Like a lot of writers, he really struggled at first. His early books, they just didn't sell. His big break finally came when he made a very specific choice. He decided to stop writing about the rich and powerful and instead point his writer's lens right at the real, everyday people he knew so well. And man, that one choice gave us two of the most powerful novels in all of American literature. First up, in 1937, was Of Mice and Men, that just gut-wrenching story about friendship and how fragile our dreams can be. Then, only 2 years later, he drops his masterpiece, The Grapes of Wrath. This was the epic story of the Joad family and their brutal journey from the Dust Bowl all the way to California, which was supposed to be the promised land. But look, The Grapes of Wrath wasn't just a book. It was a bombshell. It was like an investigative report in the form of a novel. It held that mirror up to the whole country and just laid it all bare. The poverty, the exploitation, the incredible injustice that millions of people were living through. Now, you can bet the book was controversial. Oh yeah, some people were not happy that he was showing this darker side of America. But the story's power was just undeniable. It ended up winning the Pulitzer Prize and really sealed the deal, cementing his place as one of America's most important writers. So, what is it about his writing that makes it stick with us, even today? Well, I think it really boils down to two things: truth and a whole lot of heart. You see, Steinbeck had this core belief that really guided everything he wrote. He felt that a writer's job isn't to make people feel comfortable. It's to show the truth, especially when that truth is hard to look at. And you see that truth pop up again and again in his major themes. You can almost think of them as the Steinbeck ingredients, right? You've got a deep respect for the dignity of regular people. You've got a sharp eye for social injustice. And then you have these huge, powerful themes like friendship, survival, and of course, that tricky, often out-of-reach American dream. And the way he wrote, he wasn't using fancy $10 words or academic jargon. Not his style. His writing was direct, it was simple, but it was just packed with so much emotion. And that's what made his books so easy for anyone to pick up, and what made them so incredibly moving for millions of people. So you take that simple language and you combine it with these huge, important themes. And that is exactly why his work is still with us. Which brings us to our final section. Why does John Steinbeck still matter so much today? Well, for starters, in 1962, he got the biggest award you can get in the literary world, the Nobel Prize. The committee praised him for what they called his realistic and imaginative writing. And that's a perfect description, right? It captures that unique mix he had of being brutally honest about society, but also having this deep, deep compassion for people. And that's why so many of us still read his books in school, right? Because his work is like a timeless lesson plan. His novels help us get a handle on really tough subjects, like economic hardship, the reality of inequality, and maybe the most important lesson of all, the absolute necessity of empathy. When you boil it all down, I think Steinbeck's greatest legacy is pretty simple. He gave a powerful, dignified voice to people who didn't have one. He stood up for the people that society just wanted to ignore. And he reminded the world with these amazing stories that every single human life has value, period. You know, Steinbeck always said that a writer's job was to create understanding. And by showing America what it really was, not the shiny, perfect version it wanted to be, but the messy, complicated reality, he did something truly remarkable. And I think he leaves us with a question that's just as important now as it was back then. It's a question for all of us, really. Are we brave enough to look at the truth of our own world, even when it makes us uncomfortable?